and welcome back to episode 143 of Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kylie Montigney. And I'm super excited to have on. For today's episode, we have Grayson Gurnsey. He's an actor and he plays Ricky in Virgin River, which is one of my all-time favorite shows. I'm obsessed with it. And so thank you so much for coming on, Grayson. I'm super excited to chat with you.
No, thank you so much. This is awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So what inspired you to become an actor in the first place? Did you kind of like acting at a young age? Like, did you have any family?
Well, actually, funny enough, my mom actually used to be an actor when she was younger, but I didn't know this when I started. I actually got inspired to be an actor from a Jackie Chan movie I saw ages ago that I can't remember the name of, but I saw that movie when I was 4 and basically pestered my parents until I was 8 years old, and that's when the journey started. So.
Like, what was like your first like role? Like, did you start out in theater? Or did you like basically just move into acting, like movies and stuff?
I did a little bit of theater when I was younger. I mostly just did movies. I think the first thing I ever booked was a short film called Bad Dad, where it was just a dad who wasn't very good, and it was kind of like a comedy. But the first real project I like worked on that was like a professional project, I got flown over to Africa, like in Kenya, Nairobi, so I could be in like West Africa's first medical drama, which it sounds odd, but that was like the first project I ever like booked. So
Like,
yeah,
are you originally from Canada, right? Are you born in
yeah,
Canada?
yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
do you still live there now, or did you kind of like move somewhere else?
Oh, I'm still in Vancouver right now. It's probably one of those things that's gonna have to happen eventually. I'm gonna have to go to LA or New York or something like that when, you stop kind of getting roles or you book too many things in like a certain area or something like that, and people start getting sick of you and you got to go somewhere else. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I'm still in Vancouver right now, and I love it. Canada's my home, man, and it's crazy. I just love this place so much that leaving would break my heart.
Like, there's like, do you get like a lot of bookings on Vancouver? Because I know like with Los Angeles and New York, those are kind of like the main places to get booked and auditions and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean it's very similar here. Vancouver has like is kind of the LA of Canada where like most of the projects come to film because a lot of American projects actually come here for like tax breaks and stuff like that, and also because
Hmm.
the Canadian dollar is lower, they can get more bang for their buck, basically. So yeah, like so many projects like Virgin River films here, and so many other shows. There's a show that's called Night Agent that just released on Netflix that filmed here too, like all in Vancouver. So yeah, and then there's also Toronto, which is a huge space for theater and TV shows and stuff like that. So it's pretty booming here, but not like it would be in America. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a good space for a lot of work.
And like as like of acting in Virgin River in Canada, like would you guys film Virgin River in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, Vancouver, and there's kind of like these hills and mountains and stuff that are called like Squamish and Whistler are kind of like these vacay spots just outside of Vancouver where that's where most of the scenery takes place, like those like mountainous hills with like those beautiful blue rivers and stuff like that. That's where we mostly film.
That's actually pretty cool. Because when I watch the show, it's like all based off like cabins, like trees, and like kind of like the wildlife type of thing.
Yeah, no, that's like maybe like 30 minutes outside of the city. So it's beautiful. Like Vancouver is so green and has so much nature in it that using it to the full advantage of the show is it just you can see it. It's an amazing, beautiful
Yeah,
this and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah. And like in terms of Virgin River, like your character Ricky, like move out to the army, right? Like you move out to the military and stuff, and that was in season 4. And like, was it like emotional for you to film you leaving, well, your character leaving in season 4?
Oh yeah. It totally was. It was it was quite emotional because I mean I knew to a certain extent that like this was probably going to be the last time I was going to be on the show for like a while. So it was like kind of like leaving home, like going off somewhere scary and stuff like that. Because I mean I've been on the show for like 4 years, and then you're like, whoa, like what's like it's like it feels like you're finishing a chapter of your life and you don't know what's going on next. So I got the chance to use all that when I was doing the scenes. When I was saying all the goodbye scenes, it was properly emotional. So yeah, it was a very emotional time, but I'm happy that I got to be that emotional because it means I enjoyed myself on set.
And like as like Virgin River wraps season five, like do you come back in season five? I'm kind of curious. Like, are you allowed to say?
I mean, I have no idea, but the sad thing is, no, I'm not coming back for season five. I mean, season six, I'm sure is always a possibility, and I'll always keep my ear to the ground. I always would love to come back to the show because I mean, I love everyone on the show; they're amazing. But no, I'm not coming back for season five, which is sad, but true.
I was like hoping you would come back. I'm like, please, would you come back for at least an episode, like at least one or two episodes?
No, it would be fun. It would be, but I think like the Lizzie Denny stuff has to kind of cultivate a bit. So if
Mhm.
Ricky's there, it's just gonna kind of get in the way, and I'm excited to see where that goes. Honestly, it's gonna be
Like,
the first
are you
season I
gonna like
don't.
watch the show, like the like season five, like as like a person that's regularly watching TV?
Yeah, I'm gonna totally watch season five. Honestly, it's gonna be the first season that I'm not gonna skip over scenes because I don't watch my scenes. I skip them. I hate watching myself
Yeah, I
in
get that.
just about anything. So I always like every time I'd be on a scene, I'd be like, oh, skip, and then watch the rest of the show. Oh, skip. So I'm gonna actually be able to watch the whole season this time. And because I haven't read any of the scripts, I'm just gonna be like, oh no, he didn't. Yeah, something like that. It'll be great.
Yeah, like I know, like I hate watching myself also. Like when I watch back like some interviews or something, I'm like, I can't watch my interview. Even if my family watches it in front of me, I'm like, please turn that off or watch it while I'm not in the room. Like I can't like bear watching myself on
Oh,
YouTube
yeah.
or whatever it is.
No,
And
it's
like,
something like that.
yeah. And like what was like the audition process like for you for the World Rookie? Like was it like a short process or it was kind of like a long process?
It was really short actually. It's funny because when it comes to shows that like intend on using you for like a large part in their show later on, they kind of like put you through your paces, like when it comes to how you look and how you kind of feel in the role, and you audition like 3 or 4 times mostly. But this time I got crazy lucky and they gave it to me after one read through. I didn't even meet the directors or the producers or the writers, which is like very odd. Um, but yeah, it's funny because I thought I totally bombed that audition too. Totally messed it up because I like got a few lines wrong, and apparently my mom and me have arguments over this, but apparently I called her and I was like so upset that I was like literally like I'm just gonna quit acting altogether because I thought I bombed it just that hard. And life went on for about like another like 2 weeks or something like that. And then they gave me a call and basically were just like, can you just like be on set in like a week? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I can do that. And the rest was history.
Like, were you filming like a week later, or was it kind of like, oh, we just want to talk with you?
Oh no, we were like filming the week. We were filming a week later, like a few days after I got that, I was like in doing like costuming and all that good stuff and like a prep originally, and it was just yeah, I was literally filming a week later. Like I had agreed the next day to be on the project, and then they sent me all the scripts. So they're like, "Here's the scripts. You got to read them. We're doing a table read in like 2 days." So I was like properly on board like 2 days after they called me. So I think it sounded like a panic decision, like the guy they had dropped out, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy because like not like many auditions get back so quickly. Like not like usually they at least have like five auditions or so before you get booked.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. Like sometimes they just go, "Oh yeah, we just know," which I appreciate. But most of the times, I mean, I've gone for auditions where I've like auditioned like 6 times and still not
Mhm.
gotten the part. I was just like, I can't believe you. But yeah, no, I was very lucky that it was that short too, because it was less chance to mess up the audition.
Like, did you like meet any of the cast before you basically kind of started like filming or anything like that?
I had a singular table read before that happened. I don't know if you or any of the audience might not know what a table read is. Basically, you get the script and the entire cast gathers around a really large table and reads the script, basically, just like top to bottom, like all of the lines or whatever, just to see if there's anything weird going on or any like discrepancies or things that you'd want to change. And I was so nervous. I had gotten invited and I was just like, and I was just like, okay. And I just like got to my seat and I didn't make very much conversation. So like the only people who I knew were the people who were like, and why are you here? And I was like, oh, I'm like one of the guys who's like on the show. And they're like, oh, all right. So I didn't end up talking to a lot of the people until I filmed scenes with them because I was just too nervous to work with them and hang around them on set and like talk to them like at the table read and stuff. So I didn't know any of them until like honestly, I didn't really get to know any of them until like season 2 because I was so nervous. I like kept to myself a lot. I was a bit of a hermit, but I enjoyed that. It was fun.
I honestly get that. Like when like I grew up like every situation I would get nervous. Even with interviews, I'm like, oh, I can't do this interview. I'm afraid to talk to anybody. So I really connect with that. Like how did you kind of manage through those emotions when filming, or even the table read? Because I know like for the table reads, like those are kind of like the first processes of basically filming a movie or a show. Like that's basically the big kind of part of making a movie or a show.
Yeah, no, I had a really hard time. I mean, for like the first like 2 seasons, I was like in full like imposter syndrome like mode where like I would be on set and sometimes I would like get super nervous because it's like I had this whole scene that like hinged on like a line or something like that, and I was like, don't mess this line up, and it was just a it was a crazy experience just getting used to being on set and being like the guy that people have to like you have to show up or you could ruin a day's filming, and getting used to that pressure was hard and you kind of never get used to it to a certain extent. At least I don't. Maybe the pros do, but I'm not that. But yeah, like getting to that point where you start to get comfortable on set is like so difficult for me, especially the first there's this one funny thing that always happens to me. The first take of the first scene on the first day, I'm like literally sweating. Like I'm like my heart's going, like I have so much adrenaline that like you get a little dizzy,
Mhm.
and after you film that first take, you like it releases a little bit because you didn't mess it up. But yeah, it I honestly don't know how I managed to live through those 4 seasons sometimes because it's stressful being on those sets, but it's also a lot of fun. So I honestly don't even know how to answer your question well.
Yeah,
I don't even know, honestly. I don't know.
yeah, I get that. It's totally understandable. Like in some situations, like you don't know how to get over it. Like for me, like in like a crowded places, I don't know how to handle myself. Like it's just heart beating. Like even if like you're doing like you're dealt with that a million times, you still never get over it.
Yeah, I mean, last year's Halloween, I mean, I went to a party and I literally was like, there's too many people here, and I left. So, still working on it. I'm on the same boat as you are. I got no way of saying that I'm over that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're like similar to Ricky in any way?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. Funny enough, actually, before I like really got into acting, I actually was going to join the military. It was like a whole thing, and my parents hated it. But yeah, I think I'm like similar, and we're both pretty dorky and a bit weird, and we get tongue-tied very easily. So I think we're very similar in those ways.
And like, what would you say like, you and Izzy's relationship would be if you didn't leave in season four to join the military? Like, what do you think, like, in your prediction, would your relationship be? Like, do you think she would be off with the other guy, or do you think she would like kind of like dump him and go back to you?
I actually, yeah, I had a lot of time to think about this after wrapping season four, and uh, I personally thought it was going to be like this thing where maybe like, you know, Denny would be like a little bit more like he'd start kind of becoming reserved or anything because of his like illness. And she kind of start to hang around with Ricky more. They'd be like friends, but then like slowly, they're probably like, if I was writing it, there'd probably be like a slow spark that would like come over time. But who knows? Maybe that's season six material.
Mm. You may never know. It might be season
You
six.
never know. You
Okay,
never
like, you
know.
never
Never say
know.
never.
Like, do
Yeah.
you know if they got renewed for season six, or you have to wait until like season five to kind of see how things go?
I mean, generally, the way they always played it was that they'd film the season and then they kind of said like, "Oh, we'll see." I mean, it was kind of always a guarantee because Virgin River was like a good hit,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll just honestly sometimes the writers start like making the next season before they even finish the last, like start like writing the beginnings of like the plot and stuff like that for the next season. So I wouldn't be surprised if they already got stuff in the works for season six, but no promises. You didn't hear it from me.
Yeah, I know. Like even like with Virgin River, like once every season comes out, like it's always in like the top 10 on Netflix. It's always like a huge hit. Like that's how like I found out about Virgin River. Like I first watched it last year, and like it was such a big hit. Like, it was all over social media. It was all over the internet, like becoming a huge hit.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I was actually really surprised because I remember the first season like didn't top the charts or anything. And then season two came around and it was like all of a sudden it was like this big hit and like everyone was talking about it and I was surprised because I just thought it was kind of like one of those shows that kind of flies under the radar and like has fans but like not a ton. And then I was like, oh, this is like a real global hit, even like in Brazil and stuff like that. It's crazy. It like tops the charts for like a month. So
Mhm.
yeah, I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, like I like Virgin River, like main characters and stuff. You get to work with Martin Henderson,
Yeah.
Alexandra too, which are one of the main characters, mostly the main character in the show. And what can I say about both of them? They're both of them are amazing. Like I watched Martin for years. Like he's an amazing person. He's hilarious. I'm like such a huge fan of him. Like what was it like working with both of them?
Honestly, for the first like long time, it was very intimidating because they're very, very good actors. They just like strut on the set and they just perform in a way that like you're just like not capable of. And you're just
Yeah.
like, how do you even do that? I don't know how. Yeah, but they're like amazing, really, really smart like actors. And when they talk about a scene, they make it sound like when they're discussing their feelings with a director or something like that, they are just amazing at explaining all of their thoughts and opinions on a script and what they'd want to change and what they want to keep the same. And I'm just like, I'm so lost because they're so on it. And I'm just like not remotely as far as they are. But yeah, it was amazing. I learned a lot, honestly, when because I had the chance to kind of they'd take me under their wing a few times and they'd kind of like tell me things like, oh, hey, always remember when like they give me like small little pieces of advice when it comes to like blocking or stuff like that that I use every time I'm on set, which is pretty awesome. So yeah.
That's amazing. Like, did you like watch any of their movies or anything before like you met them, or like did you know who they were?
Honestly, I it was one of those funny things where like I only realized after I looked them up after a few days because I was like, oh, like these are probably famous people, but like I don't know anything they worked on. But like I had watched a lot of stuff. Like Alexandra was on like a whole season of The Walking Dead, and I remember being
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I remember like not remembering that I watched her, and then I was like, oh cool, I'm working with someone who's on The Walking Dead, man, that's sick. And then I was like, oh my God, and like Martin was in The Ring, like one of
Mhm.
like the biggest films ever, and Yeah, I totally forgot that both of them were on that, and I was like, whoa, these dudes do like some cool stuff. And I only realized that a few days after, which is good because if I dorked out or geeked out or whatever, they'd probably be like, oh, just like another fan or something like that, right? So I
Mhm.
was like,
Yeah, like, I feel like if that were me, that like I knew who Alexandra Martin was. Like, of course, I'm the biggest Grey's Anatomy fan, and Martin was on a couple of seasons of Grey's Anatomy. And he's, what can I say about Martin? He's amazing. I remember, yeah, I've been dying to meet Martin. Not gonna lie, it's like he's such an amazing human being. Like, I often sometimes see reels pop up of like the cast like dancing and do all these things, like dancing and doing random stuff on the set.
yeah. Oh yeah, they do that all the time. There's like dance Fridays or something like that, where basically at some random point in time, there's like the speaker that one of the crew has, and they'll just play a song. And no matter what's going on set, you just kind of gotta drop everything and just dance. uh, so yeah, I think that's on Fridays. Yeah, it's on Fridays because it's the weekend and you're partying because it's like the last shot of the day, and it's like, yeah, it's the last shot. It's like we got 2 days and then we're back on. So yeah, they would do that. They would have a little like dance party right before they do the last shot every day, or
Oh,
after the last shot.
oh
So
my
it's
God,
cute.
that's insane. I never knew that. Like I oftentimes see the videos, but I never knew you guys had a dance Friday. That's actually amazing.
Yeah, basically, yeah, like the last shot or right after you wrap the day, they like have a little like they do a little bit of a celebratory dance. So it's cute.
Like, do you like stay in contact with any of the cast? Like since like you kind of left, like the character left.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I see a lot of like them in passing because most of the actors, other than like Alex, Martin, Tim, and Annette, they're all they're all like Vancouver based. So I mean, I'll see them all the time at functions and hang out with them, and it's good to see them. I don't talk to Martin and Alex as much as, maybe I should be more contact, but I'm nervous or whatever. And you're always like, oh, should I? I don't want to bother them. But yeah, no, I definitely still stay in contact with a lot of them. Like Colin is one who I talk to all the time. Like Preacher on the show. He's a great guy. And I talk
Mm-hmm.
to him all the time. So yeah.
And so like besides kind of Virgin River and stuff, like do you have any upcoming projects that are in the works or just kind of finished wrapping up and stuff?
I don't have anything that have the wrapped up, but there's a few projects that are kind of like kicking off, and I'm excited to see where they go. And you also never want to talk about it because you don't want to like jinx it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing is it's like even when you're filming on a project, it doesn't mean that it'll necessarily ever see the light of day. So you're just like hoping through the whole project that you're like, oh, please, hopefully this like makes it all the way to the end. But yeah, I got like two things that are prospects, but we don't know exactly yet. So I shouldn't exactly talk about them, but they're both really cool, and I really like to work on
Ooh,
because
amazing. I'm looking forward to see what happens, like what happens with the whole production. Like, did you guys already like film it yet, or is like pre-production?
oh, it's like pre-production. We got like scripts and everything, but there's still like the matter of funding that's always the hardest part. Because I mean, like you know, writing a script and getting everyone to go, oh yeah, dude, I'd love to work on this is one thing. But then actually having people go, oh yeah, I'll actually like give you money to do this project is like a whole different kit
Mm-hmm.
and caboodle. So it's going pretty well. I think that hopefully I have a lot of faith that that project's going to kick off, but I don't also want to like invest too much in it because it's one of those things where you get so excited to do a project and then it falls through and you're like, oh, and it like breaks your heart. It's like going through a breakup.
Yeah, that's how it
You
happens to me
want to
all the
die.
time. Like when I like invest someone coming on the podcast and they're like, oh well, will you know? Then they're like, no, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm literally like so excited for nothing. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why did I invest in myself into something that I knew probably I wouldn't get a chance to do, you know?
Yeah, I know it totally happens, and that happens like every like two or three auditions where they're like, "Oh yeah, dude, we would love to hire you," and then all of a sudden they just never, they literally ghost you when you're working like when you're getting close to a project, and they're like, "Hey, just you're like in the top five considerations for this project." You're like, "Oh my God, that's cool." So like, hopefully they'll get back to me and like tell me if they want me to do anything more or anything they want to see more of. and then they never get back to you, and you don't know if that's a good or bad thing because sometimes they'll just call you up and you're like, you're hired. Come on set, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then other times you just don't ever hear anything back. They literally
Mm-hmm.
just like don't tell you. So they like literally like straight up you're like starting a new relationship and you're like, oh, this is gonna be pretty cool. I'm like happy to see where this goes. And then they just ghost you.
Yeah, that's the worst part of being in this business that they just ghost you for no reason. I can't tell you how many times that happened to me in the last like 2 years.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. They just like it's just like thin air, like they never existed. And it's all right, yeah, I'll just deal, I guess.
Yeah, I just find something else to do. Like find different things to do other than
Yeah,
focus on
it's
this
fine.
project.
I didn't want to work on that project anyway. Whatever, man. Yeah.
I know. And so like I've kind of been acting for the last couple of years. Like, do you have a favorite project that you worked on that's like your personal favorite?
Man, it's so hard to say. I'd say definitely one of my favorites, of course, is Virgin River because, like it was the first time I ever got to work on like be a large part on like something that like people saw and enjoyed and it changed, like my life so much and it's hard not to look back on it and it be the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It changed my life so much, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Like, with like some actors, like it's just kind of like you're just picking your own favorite child or so like picking like a favorite like favorite thing to do or something. Like it's like picking like your favorite child basically.
Yeah, like it's hard to, but there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
so like what is like some like advice for upcoming actors? And that's the last one I have for you, by the way.
oh, some good advice, I suppose, is that it's just like have faith in yourself and just don't give up because the thing is acting it feels like people just come out of nowhere and they just like they're these huge stars out of nowhere. Like, oh my gosh, where did this like Tom Holland come from? He was no one and then he was Spider-Man. But that's not true. Tom Holland was Billy Elliot when he was 10 years old on Broadway. You
Mm-hmm.
know, everyone thinks they always come out of nowhere and that, careers can just happen. But the thing is you're watching the culminations of sometimes like 2 or 3 decades of like hard work. So just know that it doesn't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. And that's the hardest thing for basically any new actor to come to terms with is that, sometimes you don't get lucky when you book a project or something like that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's just one thing that I've always tried to keep in mind too, even for myself, you don't like always it doesn't always happen overnight. So that's the biggest part for me personally.
Yeah, that's so true. And by the way, do you like Broadway shows or anything like that? Are you kind of like into that?
uh, I really would actually. I would really love that. That would be really cool. They scare me so much though because when I was younger I had like horrible dyslexia, so I was always worried about like getting off book and stuff like that. So I was like really scared of that, and that fear kind of stayed because like I never addressed it. So I was like, one of these days I gotta like just like do a play or something like that for like 6 months and just get over myself and get over this fear and act or something like that. So yeah, I would really enjoy that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I think personally, like doing a theater or something, or like even a Broadway show would be a good fit for you. I can see it. Like I really can.
Thanks. Yeah, I would totally enjoy myself. I love that stuff.
Like I'm such a big Broadway and theater like geek. I love Broadway, anything Broadway, or even entertainment. I love any Broadway things.
What's your favorite play or what's your favorite musical?
I love like in terms of Broadway, I love the Music Man, like Hugh Jackman, Son Foster. I've seen that a million times. Of course it's my favorite. But in terms of musical, on like television or something, it's The Greatest Showman for sure, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I really love that. Yeah, that's a
Like
good one.
what is yours? Like what's like your kind of favorite musical or anything?
Oh man. Well, I was like for a while, I was like a straight up like Dear Evan Hansen stan, dude. I
Oh,
was
that's a good one.
everything to do with it. I was like consuming all of that media. And then like I kind of moved to like Les Miserables eventually for like the
Oh.
music side of it. And I was like, I don't know where this went, but yeah, Dear Evan Hansen was like what started me on like the whole like consuming just all this like musical stuff. So that was my favorite for like years.
Like, have you seen like La La Land?
Oh yeah, I love La La Land. I remember seeing that in the theaters, man. That was so good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like I never seen La La Land until a couple of days ago. I only watched it, got into a couple of minutes of it, which is actually insane. I never watched it before since I'm always into musicals. I'm like, once I saw it on Netflix, I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this now. Like, because I
Yeah,
love anything that involves Netflix.
yeah,
So it's
dude.
like,
City of
oh, I might as
Stars.
well watch it right now since it's on Netflix.
Yeah, City of Stars is iconic, man. I love
Mm.
that. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good one. I gotta watch that again. It's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. I'm such a big fan. And like I can't wait to see all that you do. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I
Yeah,
had
no,
so
thank you
much
so
fun
much.
talking to you.
I had a lot of fun talking to you too. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much. I'll definitely talk to you soon. Thanks so
Okay.
much, Grayson.
All right. Bye.